stop wasting your time by watching the runway shows by themselves. It is so difficult to capture that trend. Just relax, I got you. Today we're going to be talking about the prints that were popular on the runways for spring summer 2024. Oh my gosh, 24. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Design or Design. My name is Maria and this is what I do. I am a YouTuber that talks about fashion trends and spends too much time editing. I didn't realize how many people from the industry are watching my videos. I just had a professor reach out to me and ask if they could use some of my footage for their fashion classes. If you are part of the industry, make sure to leave a comment down below letting people know who you are, where do you work. Maybe we'll create a community of professionals in here. I'm very excited to find out more about you. For those who don't like listening to me, there is the volume button down below. Feel free to use it. But anyways, let's head into the pattern or prints trends for spring summer 2024. I'm going to be starting with the smaller trends, moving on to bigger and bigger ones, finishing up with some major trends. Make sure that you're watching until the end. Let's start with the geometric trends. We see geometrical shapes being made into patterns, like for instance, these triangular shapes like in Chanel and Missoni, a lot of them in Missoni. We also have maybe a zigzag patterns as well. An interesting pattern that kind of resembled of ethnic origin, but I'm not sure. Really closely resembling a plaid of some sort. I've also put houndstooth in here from Louis Vuitton and the kind of the tweed formation from Dior along with the houndstooth. We've seen a little bit of the patchworks in shows like Chanel and in Moschino, but nothing major. Let's move on to color blocking. All right, I know this is not really a pattern, but it was there. Basically, having an outfit with colored blocks, sections, not by, for instance, like having red pants and a green top, but having maybe squares or lines, like blocks of different color on the garment, like we've seen in Peter Doe and Fendi. We also see this in Louis Vuitton in the skirt, as well as in D squared and Tod's. This is definitely more of a choice for minimalists. So if you are one, you can try that out. It doesn't have to be colored either. It can be black and white too. All right, next one I wanted to mention was this. I don't even know how to call this. I'm gonna say it's a tattoo trend, or maybe illustration trend, or maybe it's going to be like one of those old-time diagrams, like drawings of organs, like the ink art, I would say. We have this in different shows. The thing that kind of unites it, it looks like tattoos. But in Dior, it was more like an old vintage wallpaper of some sort. We're moving on into more of the scarf prints, like in Louis Vuitton having chains and locks on there. We also see this in Burberry. What they did took the logo of it and dissected it and brought it into a larger scale on garments as well as smaller scale as well. We also see this in Versace of having more of that scarf print, and one piece of in rock of having like vintage style stamps. All right, let's move on to abstract. We see a lot of abstract kind of prints on the runways, whether it's like a color gradients. Basically, if you think of in abstract painting, that is what the print would be on the garment. Maybe some abstract lines, maybe even AI art, like in Julia Johnson. I've tried to dabble a little bit with editing photos, and that's exactly what it spat out for me when I asked for a forest. We also see a little bit more of a psychedelic prints happening in D squared. But my favorite would be the following from Acne Studios as well as from Victoria Beckham, having almost like a material on top, but kind of skewed and not wrinkled, but you can see what I mean. I'm not sure if it is real material, but usually it is much cheaper to print this. So if this does get out to mass market, this is probably going to be printed. The next one is also one of my favorites, is the Alexander McQueen paintbrush, but it's continuing through the garment and ending in a fringe. I love it. We also see some abstract shapes in Ferragamo, also can be considered color blocking. We also see more of an abstract print in Mugler, having this blue and black splatters. I'm sure you can create this on your own, for instance, on a denim jacket. Bottega Veneta had a lot of abstract sweaters, reminding me a lot of that eclectic grandpa aesthetic that is going popular right now. And we also have some of the squiggly lines in Dress Van Noten. Very 60s for me. All right, next one up would be body. So this is one of my favorite trends. Whenever lines or the shape of it imitates the body or kind of highlights it in some way. For instance, here in Mugler, you can see men's shirt, but it's a reverse triangle, so emphasizing that shape. And it can do wonders for any body. You can definitely lose a few pounds by wearing a dress like this from Y Project with having dark around the areas that wants to be shown in a smaller and wider in the ones that trying to highlight it. We also see in Y Project cut almost like a print of a garment on a garment, but it's still in that kind of a body shape and smaller than you are. And Y Project always did this, and it's that nude body effect as well. Next one up would be graphics. We see a lot of posters on the garments, like movie posters, or maybe it's like pop groups on there. Like we see this in Diesel. We also see that Y2K trend of just graphics, like some titles and text on the shirts. Rolling Stones here. We also see more simplistic prints, like these eyelash sets on the chest of the model. We also see some more vintage vibes here as well. And I wanted to point out some of the textures. Like for instance, here we're looking at the undercover where you can see through a garment. This might be super expensive to buy, something that's been done so well and sheer, but this effect can always be printed on a garment. Like for instance, this garment has some bank cards and pockets and maybe some keys, something transparent, maybe like even x-rayed. The distressed trend. Yes, we've seen this in texture, of course, but we also see this in print, or it can be achieved in print. That's what I'm talking about. So for instance, here in Acne Studio, we have like a crinkling of paint effect here. We also see maybe a interesting dyeing technique like in Dior. For instance, the Eiffel Tower here, I think that's what it is. Or maybe it's tie-dye, but it looks like it's cracked glass. Or maybe the florals are a little bit more abstract than usual. Or maybe even it's faded, like here, a dyeing technique that just is not perfectly done. We also see a lot of this in Diesel, having maybe crinkled up material and then painted over that and creating that texture. We also see faded effects of dyes as well. A lot of it on the runways, trying to make the garment look much older, much more worn out. Even sometimes looks like there's really dirty or like even a rusty water stains. I don't know, like I don't know how much I like this trend, but Ardem also had this kind of a folded and then painted over effect on their gowns. We also see a gradient in Altuzara looking like the tie-dye didn't go according to plan. We see this gradient also in a more interesting effect like in Loewe, having the seams being much more darker and the rest of the garments. We also see something along the lines in Y Project. We also see those rusty water stains there as well. Again, the seams looking much darker than everything else, a gradient on the jeans, on the denim. Roberta Cavalli also having this effect, but this one looks more like the model was walking in some dirty puddles and just the dirt has been absorbed into half of the garment. I'm not sure if that brownish color was the color to go for, you know what I mean? Mugler also had some fantastic gradients that were breathtaking. And we also see some more feminine ones in the Zimmerman of just very beautiful flowing garments on here, some dresses and shirts. Okay, maybe Roberta Cavalli have regained my trust. Okay, next one up would be animal prints. Okay, animal prints are basically a classic. And whenever I mention that there's animal prints on the runways, people are saying this is not a trend, this is a classic. And I agree, but here you go. If you love animal prints, check out how they were styled on the runways and maybe try and do the same. I've also heard that the indie movement that was really popular in the 2010 is coming back. We had a lot of animal prints present, like the cheetah print, the zebra print. Like I remember that time where there was everything had an animal print was present. So maybe you still have some of the items from that time. Take them out, keep wearing them. We see also a lot of print that I never thought of as animal print, but it makes sense, and it's feathers. So Roberta Cavalli had so many different examples of this, ranging from really intense, crazy colors to the more natural, like brown colors with a little bit of purple here and there, like in the ducks, you know? Anyways, and one of the prints that was even more surprising to me than feathers was a fish print. It's in Scaparelli. We see here a swimming suit with sequins, and then if you didn't know it was fish, the skirt and the fish on it will tell you that yes, in fact it is. Next one up, we'll be heading into more of a geometrical and rigid print, and that is considered one of the most classical prints and most popular prints as well, and it is plaid. Reason why it is the most popular, because of the weaving technique of having different threads, and it is one of the most ancient patterns because it was the easiest one to make on the loom. So we see this in a variety of shows, making them a little bit more spring-like with lighter colors. We also see a lot of prints that really resemble Burberry. At least for me, I'm like, oh, is this Louis Vuitton or is this Burberry? Are they trying to pull something? We also see a lot of tweed on the runways as well, with the plaid print on there. I know that it's not a print, it's a weave, but sometimes it's a print. Sometimes it's just printed on. And I guess we're talking about patterns rather than prints. So here we are. We do also see a lot of vintage type of plaid that really reminds me of that eclectic grandpa aesthetic that everybody's been talking about lately. And you can totally find that aesthetic in the thrift store for very cheap, or just go to your grandparents' house and ask to borrow a blazer. Honestly, it's that easy. We also see this in more flowy materials like in Ralph Lauren here. We also see this in Vivienne Westwood as well as in Y Project. But Y Project has a really unique take on it. We see not just a simple plaid, but it is manipulated. It's as if it was photocopied while it was laying on not so straightly, if you know what I mean. We also see a lot of checker prints, and one of the major contributors to this is Louis Vuitton men's show. The entire runway was a checkered print. So what else can we expect? We see it in variety of colors, and it doesn't really have to be check. It's like little squares too in variety of colors, almost resembling camouflage, but we'll get to that in a little bit. We also see this in Louis Vuitton women's show, just a tiny bit, a lot of it in Versace as well, but a little bit more spring-like for sure. All right, let's move on to something I'm calling cityscape. It's like landscape, but with a city. Yeah. Okay, so once again, we see it in Louis Vuitton with the little tiny squares. It's almost like paint by squares, a feel to this, having bridges and different architecture. We also see Ulla Johnson having more of a nature scape. We also see D Squared bringing more of postcard aesthetic here, a lot of more vintage patterns and almost like a tapestry feeling as well, with old architecture and maybe older, more vintage paintings even featured on the undercover garments. I really like this print. It is much more unique than many things that we see out on the streets or the runways. You can definitely upcycle anything in your closet by just painting on it, creating a masterpiece that is completely unique to you. And yeah, anyways, moving on to camo. I promised you guys, and here I am delivering. So we do see camo, but mostly on menswear. But if you're a girl and you love camouflage, go ahead. This is definitely bringing me back to Y2K pop culture for sure. Having like low-rise camo, anything. We see a lot of it on the Louis Vuitton menswear with those, but having more of a camo feel to it. We also see this camouflage not only in the squares, but in actually like little branches on the garment. We also see it in Tory Burch, but it's more like a pixelated logo of theirs, but it does really remind me of camo. And moving on to florals, and yes, that quote from Devil Wears Prada, the one that I probably watched 20 times because I had a DVD.
Florals for spring. Groundbreaking.
So we see it done in a variety of ways, maybe like an applique of some sort, maybe just a print of a single flower on the garment, or just like a little bunch here, a little like bouquet. But we also see a full-on print, like for instance here in Balenciaga, having more of that vintage grandma feel to it, or going more in a abstract route as well, more into like 60s too. We also see a lot of it in Balmain, having a spring feel to it with a lighter background, as well as some more colorful ones too, having like pink and peach roses on the blue background. I quite like that one. We also see a lot of florals in Chanel, going from color to black and white to a little more color. Dior having more subtle florals, a little bit more muted. Of course, Ulla Johnson and Zimmermann are gonna have their floral fest. Very feminine pieces of clothing here, and I cannot imagine Zimmermann's show without any florals. So I guess it's in their DNA. We also see Erdem featuring more of a vintage floral prints on their garments, somewhat of a grandma's wallpaper aesthetic here. I guess you can consider this being a eclectic grandpa style too. Prada had a little bit of more simple florals and some really cool prints on the fringe, as well as in menswear too. I really like the florals in Burberry. They're much more powerful and reminds me a lot of the 60s. Moving on to D squared, going in the same direction here. So when you're thinking about adding florals to your closet and you're wondering what scale should I go for? Should I go for something tiny or should I go for something large? Think about your body and that will tell you what to go for. If you're more petite, smaller, tinier, then you should go for a smaller print. If you're mid-size, go for mid-size print. And if you are a full-bodied person, then go for something oversized. But there's always a way to break rules. Maybe you want to create a statement by having crazy large print when you are small. So feel free to experiment. We also see some interesting, I don't want to say florals, but here we have a Venus flytrap on the garments in Ferragamo in a more exaggerated way. We also see some more minimalistic leaves here in Dress Van Noten, maybe something more eclectic, more vintagey in Undercover. And let's head into a different type of florals. This is definitely something very vintagey, damask or William Morris kind of a print, something that you would see on a bougie furniture. That is my way of explaining it. Maybe some royal wallpaper as well. So having kind of these ornate prints on the garments of floral inspired, these ornate decals that would be made as a decoration on the wall. Etro definitely was embracing this pattern and went with it all out, featuring all these more deeper, more luxurious colors too. Like that rosette feeling or the rococo kind of a feel. It's like they took the tapestry off of those palace rooms and just created a bunch of outfits out of it. If they did, good for them. And we've seen some berries and fruits on there as well, like in a Burberry show here featuring some cherries and blackberries. All right, let's move on to Strypes. Yet another very classical and very simple pattern, but yeah, it's classic. So think about the body. I know we're seeing a lot of horizontal stripes, but that is not usually the best way of wearing them unless you want to widen that certain part of you. Like for instance, if you're pear-shaped, wearing a horizontal stripe at the top will balance out your body, or reverse, if you are a reverse triangle, then wearing something horizontally striped on the bottom will make your hips look larger. But usually I prefer to wear my stripes in a vertical kind of way to make me look taller instead. Like in Laquan Smith here, I love these stripes and they'll make your curl look amazing. So we do see some regular stripes as well, going in a variety of thicknesses, like in Dress Van Noten here, pairing even stripes on stripes. And of course, like the larger the stripe, the more potential it would bring, and the bigger it will create your appearance. We also see a lot of stripes in Louis Vuitton and variety of garments, sometimes even mixing some prints on there as well. I quite like these basically because most of them are vertical and not horizontal. Even a slanted line across is good as long as it's not horizontal. Anyways, we also see a lot of it in different shows. Roberto Cavalli and Bottega Veneta had some leather in a stripe format going diagonally across the body. We also see, once again, White Project getting creative with their play on this. But one of the most important ones was the striped polo shirt. Yes, you heard it correctly. If you were a guy in the 2000s, oh my goodness, you probably had so many of these. And that means that there are going to be plenty of them in thrift stores, or maybe even in your closet or your partner's closet. Take them out. The larger the better. You can see they're mostly resembling those jock uniform thing. We also see these stripes in a Missoni, but they're like trippy stripes. They're not all straight and really colorful. We're having like chevron type of patterns here in Missoni, as well as in Bottega Veneta. But let's talk about the tiny stripes. Yeah? Yes, those pinstripes that are mostly relevant on office wear. We see a lot of those. So if you do have a blazer with those, take it out. We see so much of it on the runways, and it doesn't really matter what color it is. Yeah, it's there. It's there. And there's also another aesthetic that is being really popular, and it's the office siren. So basically a super duper hot version of an office worker, but like really pushing that office worker look, maybe like a librarian look too. Like for instance here in The Boss. Yeah, that. Anyways, let's move on to one of the most popular prints that I've seen on the runways, and it's Polkadot. Yes, Polkadot can be considered once again a classic, but we're not talking about classic. We're just talking about what was on the runways, and it was on it, let me tell you. Balmain was quite a big fan of it, bringing it in a multitude of colors and different designs. Next, we see a lot of it in Dolce & Gabbana, but Dolce & Gabbana, I feel like it is one of their staple prints, where if you think about an Italian woman, you will think about a polka dot print. There's no way around it. And we also see it in variety of sizes there, from going from like tiny one to quite large as well. We also see it in a Maison Margiela show, which is really unique. Prada had quite a few looks with circles or polka dots, like, I don't know. We also see it in Altuzarra having a few garments with the black on white polka dot. We also see it in many shows. Some dots are a little bit more symmetrical, while others are polka dotting. We see Yves Saint Laurent even having it in the menswear with like really flowy blouses in polka dot. Really interesting. We also see this in Stella McCartney, as well as an undercover, as well as in, yeah, that is pretty much it. All right, now let's take a look at how they were pattern mixed, basically. So we do see most of the shows doing pattern mixing, although the patterns might not be super popular at the moment, but some shows did love it. For instance, Etro show pairing that floral thing that I was talking about with stripes, or having animal print with plaid, or having even two prints on one print, like florals and check, like in Versace. We also have two prints combined on garment, like in Dress Van Noten, and we also seen this in Louis Vuitton a little bit earlier. Of course, you can wear different garments in different prints as well. That's, I guess, the most easiest way to do it. All right, well, that completes the list. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I've spent a lot of time collecting this information, and probably I won't be able to make the next upload just because I'm running out of time with these longer ones. If you're still here and you're new, then you might as well subscribe because you probably liked it. Come on, be honest with yourself. I'm trying to grow my channel, and hopefully this year my goal is to reach 50,000 subscribers. I know it's a far reach, but I think we can do it, and I can only do it with your help, honestly. So if you know somebody that might like this kind of content, please share my videos. I would really appreciate it. But another way you can show your support is by simply liking this video or giving me a nice little comment down below. If you're interested to see how I try to interpret these trends in everyday life, then I encourage you to check out my Instagram page. You can say hello to me there. I can then see you and what you look like, what's your style. Whenever you're talking to somebody, you can imagine how they would look like, but then they can look completely different. But that's it for me for now. I'm running to edit this video and hopefully the next one as well. But that's all from me today. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day, and yeah, stay classy. Bye.